Hey, yo. Welcome to the Oddcast, where the real still breathe. Steel's the great on the set. Ali Vegas bringing heat. Every episode elite. Monday it's all hip hop. Bars heavy, no gimmicks, just culture and classics. Wednesday we switch the lane. Sports talk reckless, breaking down champions in practice. Me and Vegas on the mics. That's Kobe with Shaq, Jeter and Mo. LT with Banks. Legends that match. Friday we mix it all together. Put you up on game. From the hardwood to the Hall of Fame. Download the Bars and Hoops radio app. Available on all major platforms. Take us everywhere you go. Like, subscribe and follow. YouTube, Twitch, Instagram. Now turn it up.
What up, what up, what up, y'all? Still's the great. You know what it is. The Oddcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 8 to 9 today. You know what I mean? We got a good show for you lined up today, man. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about, it's Hip Hop Monday, so we're going to really dig a little deep and dive into some hip hop and talk some real hip hop stuff, man, to make everybody go, You know what I mean? Today's show, we're going to talk about the Sophomore Jinx, man. Is it that the second album is the hardest thing to do to follow up a classic debut album? We're going to get to it because over the years, it's been debatable, man. Sometimes the first album spoils it for the second album, and sometimes the second album actually comes out better than the first album, man. We're going to talk about it. We're going to dig a little deep into it, and we're going to get to it for sure. Shout out to Jessica Grandy on the check-in. We see you. You know what I mean? So shout out to my co-host, Ali Vegas. We had this conversation a few weeks ago, you know, regarding what are some of the things that causes a sophomore jinx. And he gave me a little industry insight because, you know, he actually grew up in the industry as a young kid, learning the game, coming in at a very young age, being around situations and being around people to kind of get a bird's eye view on what really happens to people and what kind of kills the creativeness to kind of fall into a sophomore jinx pattern. So one of the things that he shared with me is that, you know, what happens is that a lot of guys, they get that upfront money and they don't get any more money after that, which means that they get that upfront money for that first album. First album sells what it sells. You may not have made all the money back that they gave you, so you don't really get another advance. So the way that you make your money is by doing shows, selling merchandise, doing appearances, doing other features for other artists. That's how you really get your money. So 9 times out of 10, when it's time for you to get over the high of that first album and it's time for you to creatively make that second album, you kind of burnt because it's like, yo, I ain't see a check since I first put pen to paper. Like, yo, what the fuck is going on? And then y'all expect me to turn around and give you another classic when you ain't really give me no real money up front? I'm a starving artist. I'm still living in the projects. I'm still living with my mom's. You know what I'm saying? I only got enough money to buy a car, buy a crib, and then now I'm tapped out and I'm out here struggling to kind of make it. So that's what can cause, you know, a sophomore jinx for that matter. So let's put it to the test. Let's talk about some sophomore jinx albums or some controversial albums that people would consider a sophomore bust, to say the least, right? So let's start at the top of the list. These aren't necessarily bad albums, but they aren't better than the debut album. So let's start with Snoop Dogg. And we all know 1993, year of the dog. That was the year that the West Coast was really sizzling in hip hop. 1992 was the Chronic, Dr. Dre, and he kind of ushered everybody into who Snoop Dogg was. So Snoop Dogg, of course, was anticipated in 1993 to drop an album, and the album was Doggy Style, which was a classic. People was bumping that on the East Coast. People was bumping it on the West Coast. It was an album that changed the game for how people view West Coast artists. You know what I mean? Snoop did very well. He had all of the production from Dr. Dre. You know, the skits, everything was on point. Commercial success. The album was crazy. After that, the second album that dropped was The Dogfather. Now, we all know that, you know, he didn't have the same production from Dr. Dre. You know, it was a totally different sound, and it just didn't have the same commercial success that his debut album had. And, you know, from there, it kind of went downhill after that. You know, he ended up eventually leaving, you know, Death Row, signed with Master P for a stint, gave Master P an album. And it took a while. I'm even going to say it took a while. It's like Snoop never really rebounded after that. I'm not going to say he never was a part of any hits or anything that happened after that. But as far as album success, I don't think he dropped anything that was worthy enough for people to kind of still keep him at the top tier of the game at the time. Shout out to No Ledge 7. You know what I mean? And I was definitely going to get to that, man. He said It Was Written was better than Illmatic. And we're going to get to that because that's a heavy debate. Like, you know what I mean? I debate with people to this day about that. You know what I mean? It Was Written, to me, was a masterpiece. You know what I'm saying? It was Nas kind of ushering his way into his commercial success with Lauryn Hill, the If I Rule the World record. You know what I mean? Street Dreams. Like, we going to talk about that, man. But shout out to No Ledge, you know what I'm saying, on that one, man. You know what I'm saying? That was definitely a good one. So let's talk about another sophomore Jinx. And this is from my guy. You know, I'm Queens all day. Queens get the money. But 50 Cent. Get Rich or Die Trying wasn't his official first album. So this is kind of like a cheat code because Power of the Dollar was his first album. The Power of the Dollar was an unreleased debut album from 50 Cent, where, of course, everybody know his claim to fame was How to Rob. That was the biggest single on that album. That wasn't really the one that that everybody, you know, was checking for. His heavily anticipated debut album, mainstream-wise, was Get Rich or Die Trying. And we all know what that did. That went diamond. You had the production from Dr. Dre. You know what I mean? In the Club basically took over, and now that's the birthday song for everybody for the rest of our natural lives. It changed that. It took over for that happy birthday to you. Like, In the Club is basically the new happy birthday song for anybody celebrating a birthday. You know what I mean? But that album did what it did. His sophomore album was The Massacre. Now, huge sales, you know what I mean? But many people felt like it lacked the hunger that it had on the debut album, where he was just happy to get in the game. He wasn't being blackballed anymore. He had a budget behind him. He had a machine behind him. And it just seemed like it was a lazy project that he just kind of put out. And, you know, it didn't really hit the way that Get Rich or Die Trying hit. But don't get it twisted. It had some songs on there. It definitely had a few songs on there that was hits. Had some underground songs on there that was hits, but it just didn't hit the same way that Get Rich or Die Trying hit. The next album that's quite debatable, Fabulous. For those of you that live in New York, you know that Fab made his way through DJ Clue, Desert Storm. Fab was on every Clue mixtape. He was sizzling before his album actually hit, man. His debut album, for those of you that don't know Fab, and Fab is like, you know, Captain America. He's not aging at all. His first album was Ghetto Fabulous. You know, he had the chip tooth and everything. You know, when you get money, changes the situations a little bit. But his first album was Ghetto Fabulous. Dope album. The second album that dropped was Street Dreams. You know what I mean? It was a good album, but it didn't have the same impact as Ghetto Fabulous. Ghetto Fabulous was more street. Street Dreams was more commercial. That was the album that he was on the cover with the all blue mink. He had the blue Porsche, I believe it was, on the cover of the album. It was like a real shiny album, but it didn't have the same impact that Ghetto Fabulous had. It's debatable because he had some commercial songs on there, but it's debatable. And shout out to No Ledge. He said the Infamous album was Mobb Deep's classic. That was their second album. We're going to get to that as well. And the Low End Theory, shout out to the Hood. Those are my guys. Rest in peace to Phife Dawg. You know what I mean? The Low End Theory, the second album, was a classic too. That's a fact. We're going to get to all of that. You know what I mean? The next album and the next person that we're going to have on this list is DMX. It's Dark and Hell is Hot. We all know that set all types of records. DMX ushered himself into the game, and it was no stopping him at the time. He actually had one of the greatest runs in hip hop history after that album dropped. He actually dropped 2 albums in that same year, which is Flesh of My Flesh. Now, that album again was released in the same year. And shout out to my brother Tiny, man. Before he got on, he gave me a little nugget. He said the reason why X created that second album was because Rick Rubin gave him a bet him $2 million that he wouldn't be able to create. Or he said that he'll give him $2 million if he creates another album within the same year, and he actually did it. You know what I mean? And basically, it did debut #1, but it did seem a bit rushed, and he did have a few features on the album, but it didn't quite hit like It's Dark and Hell is Hot did, the Get At Me Dog, all of that. Like, it didn't have the same impact that It's Dark and Hell is Hot was, but he did have the commercial success. He did sell a lot of records, and, you know, it eventually carried him into other genres as far as doing Romeo Must Die. He started doing TV shows, movies. X really capitalized on his fame to the point where he got kind of engulfed in the Hollywood life, and then that's when he started experiencing a lot of turmoil, and the demons inside of him was kind of getting the best of him at the time. But he had a run like no other, man. Him and 50 Cent had a run like no other. You know what I mean? Now, this one is a little questionable. Cannabis, Can I Bust? Cannabis, to me, was one of the illest. Life for Carl Thomas. It's not a game. Like, they had a bunch of records on there, and the second album, and he trajected himself into a different stratosphere. You know what I mean? Shout out to Jessica Grandy on the check-in. She said, it's like we be wanting so much from our artists. Now that I look back, we compare them to every other artist. We be expecting blood, sweat, and tears from them. That's a fact, Jess. That's the business that they're in, man. The entertainment business. It's always, what have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? Shout out to Know the Ledge. He said, OC from Digging in the Crates. Second album, Jules was fire. Jules was fire. And shout out to OC, man. We got to get him back here on Bars and Hoops Radio now. He was like one of the first big artists that ever gave us a shot to interview him, man, and show him love. And we're going to forever be indebted to him and show him love all the time. You know what I mean? Shout out to Know the Ledge again. He said, Jodeci, Diary of a Mad Band, classic. That R&B, that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? For real. Next on the list, we got The Game. The documentary was fire. Sort of the same situation with Snoop, right? The documentary, great album. And it's funny, you know, Snoop was a Crip, you know, Game is a Blood. Same thing. Dope introductory album. He had a lot of help from 50 Cent. 50 helped him write a lot of songs. He doesn't shy away from that. And as recently as last week, he gave 50 his props for tremendously helping him during his first album on the documentary. You know what I mean? That was a classic. Dr. Dre was happy to work with another Compton-born MC. They put together a great project. But then The Doctor's Advocate came out. It was a good album. Game can spit. Game is, he's a huge student of the game, and his style is definitely more East Coast than West Coast. And it was a good album, man. But the comparisons to all of the Dre influence from the first album kind of made that Doctor's Advocate a letdown album. Chance the Rapper. We spoke about Chance the Rapper, right? And what's so unique about Chance the Rapper is that he had all of this commercial success. Everybody knew what it was with him, but he never had a deal, and he made off like a fat rat. Coloring Book was his first album, classic. Then his debut album, The Big Day, is one of hip-hop's most criticized follow-ups. You know what I mean? It didn't have the same impact that the first album had. And you know, ever since then, he's kind of been really quiet. I guess when you make that much money off your first trip, you know what I mean, you don't really need to come back out and do anything else. I think he is a smart kid. He probably invested his money wisely, and he didn't have to do anything else. Similar to Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill had one album that was a classic, and she's been living off that album for almost 2 decades. You know what I mean? She's never dropped a second album. She's done features, but never dropped a second album, and her debut album was a classic, and it can never be touched. That's an iconic album that will go down forever in history of being a classic album, and she never even bothered to follow up because it did so well. It made her well off. She went over and had a bunch of babies. I ain't gonna say married into the Marley family, but you know what I mean? It gave birth into the Marley family, and she's never had a want to make any type of album again. You know what I mean? Crazy. Shout out to No The Ledge, Jay-Z, In My Lifetime. Definitely fire album. We're going to get into it right now. So, of course, everybody knows this was the 30-year anniversary of Reasonable Doubt, right? Came out, nobody really appreciated it, and Jay even said it himself. People really didn't appreciate it until the second time they had to release it. His second album was when it all started for him. The In My Lifetime Volume 1, bigger commercially. Many still prefer the debut album, but In My Lifetime was one of the greatest pieces of art that he put together, and that kind of just started the snowball effect for everybody rocking with everything that Jay-Z put out. Because after that, everything that he put out was a classic. Volume 2, you know what I mean? That was one of the greatest, I'm not going to say compilation albums, but you can call it a compilation album because he had so many features on that album that, you know, you can't deny it. He had DMX on that album. He had the Locks on that album. You know what I mean? He had Jermaine Dupri on that album. You know what I mean? And it was just undeniable with the hits that he had commercially. It just was, you couldn't take anything away from that album, man. It had so many bangers on there that, you know, it even made Memphis Bleak, you know what I mean, stand out. You know what I mean? For real. Next on the list, Nas, and this is one of my favorites, right? Illmatic. I can't even put into words what Illmatic meant to me as a kid, you know what I mean, in 1994. Like, just hearing it, being a kid that grew up in the 80s listening to hip-hop in its purest sense, when Nas came out, he just instantly grabbed my attention, you know what I'm saying? He even inspired me to write, you know what I mean, back in the days. Like, a lot of people didn't know that I used to rap or write rhymes back in the day. I just never used to let people hear because I was shy. I didn't want people hating on me and stuff like that. But after hearing it, Illmatic, it made me want to rap, right? It was a street album. I could relate to everything that he was saying. You know what I mean? I would frequently go to Queensbridge. You know what I mean? Shout out to my big brother Rap. You know what I mean? Shout out to Sudan. Shout out to everybody that showed love in QB. You know what I mean? Back in the days when I was coming up. So Illmatic was a big influence of me, you know what I mean, on my, and played a big influence in my life growing up, right? It was written, I always said, you know, I couldn't believe that he can put out a better piece of work than Illmatic, but it was written hands down, like, you know, even the unreleased songs like Silent Murder and stuff like that, like, those songs was crazy, man. And to me, one of the greatest songs of all time, to this day, hands down, I Gave You Power. Just the mere thought of envisioning yourself as a firearm, as a gun, and speaking so vividly on how people either misuse it, how they hide them, how they use them, how they deface them. You know what I mean? How guns actually jam, and just putting itself in the position of being a gun with its own mind. Like, it was just mind blowing to me, man. That was just one of the greatest songs of all time to me. And then also on that album, you had Shootouts. another vivid story about a dice game going bad in the hood. And you know what I mean? Dude coming back to shoot the game up. Like it just, Nas was just on a totally different level, man. So it was written, it not only was commercially more successful than Illmatic, but it actually broke barriers, man. And it was bigger sales. It gave him a broader appeal to the masses because of that one single with Lauryn Hill, If I Rule the World. Classic to this day. And many people will argue you down saying that it is actually a better body of work than Illmatic. And like I said, Illmatic was one of my favorite albums. You know what I'm saying? But It Was Written was just on another level. You know what I'm saying? And then he had the influence of Dr. Dre on that album as well. You know what I mean? Nas is coming, all of that, man. So Nas really, really changed the game, and you know, it put him in another stratosphere. Then, you know, after that, you had the IAMs. Wasn't as great. It was a good album, really commercial. Then it was Nostradamus. That one was kind of dark. It was like, but Nas, that second album was arguably better than the first album. The next one on the list is Notorious B.I.G. You know, Ready to Die. Great album. You know what I mean? Great debut album. He had the influence of Puff. You know what I mean? They had the machine behind him. Puff knew how to make music, because if I'm not mistaken, Big didn't even like Juicy. But Puff convinced him that this was the best move for his career. Cleaned him up, you know what I mean? Shined him up, put him out there, and it took off. Ready to Die took off. And then unfortunately, you know, the East Coast, West Coast beef happened. And during the time of Big promoting the Life After Death album, he eventually ended up losing his life in 1997, right when Life After Death was actually scheduled to drop. And that was hands down a double disc classic. You know what I mean? It elevated Big in the legendary status. To this day, me and my co-host Ali Vegas talk about it all the time, that you'll probably never see or hear a body of work that can compare to Life After Death, both sonically, commercially, lyrically. And Big was also a tremendous storyteller. You know what I mean? Tremendous storyteller, man. It was a big loss to the culture. You know what I mean? For real. Now, shout out to Jessica Grandy. She said, Stills, doesn't that album count as two albums? Nah, it's one album, Jess. That counts as one album, because Tupac dropped a double album when he came home from jail too. And Tupac is another one that his first album was like the opposite. His first album was actually not that great. I always liked Tupac as an artist, but it wasn't until Me Against the World came out that made me really be like, oh, nah, this guy is actually nice. You know what I mean? And then from there, Tupac took off, started doing movies and all that. Then again, the fame ended up getting him caught up. He caught a little BS case. He had to do some time. He ended up getting bailed out of jail. And Suge Knight put him under his wing on Death Row Records, and he dropped a double disc that was amazing. So his second and third album was clearly better than his first album. You know what I mean? All Eyes on Me was tremendous. You know what I mean? Just like Big, Life After Death. And now that I'm talking about it, it's kind of eerie how both of these guys died in the midst of a senseless East Coast, West Coast war. And they both dropped double CDs. That was tremendous. You know what I mean? So rest in peace to Big, man. And rest in peace to Tupac, man. You know what I mean? Outkast, same thing with them. Southern Playalistic wasn't that great to everybody. That was their debut album. But then ATLiens dropped. And that was a massive leap. That was the album with Elevators on there. You know what I mean? And that took them to a whole nother level. And then they dropped, Aquemini, and then it was just, they took off from there. And then Andre 3000 had a baby with Erykah Badu, and then everything, we all know the results of that. He's walking around, pianos on his back. He made the Love Below album. Big Boy had a speaker box. But Andre 3000 never landed off of Mars after he got a little piece of Erykah Badu. Shout out to my guy. And shout out to the A. I'm repping the A today, you know what I mean? And shout out to my brother Smokes, man. Shout out to the whole Queens Day Atlanta team, man. If you didn't get your tickets already, make sure you get down to Atlanta for Queens Day, September 24th to September 27th, man. It's going to be a great time, man. I had to take the time out. Shout out my guys, man. This is the 10th annual Queens Day Atlanta event that's happening in Atlanta, Georgia, man. September 24th to September 27th. Of course, Thursday night, you got the Black Tie Fair. Shout out to my guy, T-Rock. Friday night, of course, is the 80s party. You know what I mean? Saturday, that's the big extravaganza. That's the, we have the big park outing in the park. You know what I'm saying? It might change up a little bit this year. And then, of course, the nightcap is going to be at King of Diamonds. Shout out to Akinelli. You know what I mean? It's going to be a movie out there. Make sure that you get out there and support. And then, of course, Sunday, shout out to my brother Superstar J, DJ Superstar J, DJ Stunner. You know what I'm saying? They are going to kill the R&B party, which they always do. And that's the wind down event on Sunday, man. So make sure you guys get out there and support. You know what I mean? Now, we're going to talk about Kendrick Lamar now. Kendrick Lamar, Section 80 was his first album. I don't even remember that album, be honest with you, right? But then Good Kid, Mad City was an instant classic. And then after that, he dropped 2 more hits that was great. You know what I mean? Kendrick Lamar, he's another one. He's sort of like, I don't want to call him like Nas, but he's so gifted and he's so talented. He takes his time to put together projects, man. And we all seen him do his best work when he sit down and he analyzes you. And this is what he did when he went to war with Drake. He kind of tarnished Drake's career for a little bit, but Kendrick Lamar is definitely a talent, and he definitely put on for the West Coast. J. Cole, Cold World, great album, great debut album. Next one he dropped was Born Sinner. You know what I mean? It was a more mature album, and it was definitely something that true, pure hip-hop fans like, and he had a heavy New York influence because he did go to St. John's. Shout out to St. John's, by the way. Word. Eminem. Eminem, shout out to Eminem, man. First and foremost, man, you got to give Eminem his props because he's really, truly part of the hip-hop culture. Without Eminem, we would not have seen 50 Cent rise to the level that he is today without the influence of Eminem. You know what I mean? Eminem seen something in 50 that people in New York either saw and didn't want to help or didn't understand how to deal with or control. But without Eminem, 50 Cent wouldn't be where he is today. So the Slim Shady LP was his first album. To me, it took a little while for me to kind of get into him because, of course, us in New York, we had this stigma about, oh man, white rappers and all this. Like, who is this guy? What is this gimmick? Blonde hair, blue eyes. Like, what are they doing? They trying to Elvis hip hop now? That was me in the beginning. I'm not going to lie. I was one of those people. Yes. I was stereotyping him. Yes, I was. Until I really started listening to him and I was like, oh, nah, he can actually rap. You know what I mean? And then he totally shut me up with the Marshall Mathers LP. That's considered one of the greatest hip-hop sophomore albums ever. He had Stand on there, I Am, whatever. He had so many records on that album that it wasn't even funny, and he catapulted himself into a different stratosphere to now he's a pillar in hip-hop to where he created his own outlet with Shay 45, you know what I mean? Shout out to the team over there at Shea 45, man. And shout out to Eminem for, killing any stereotypes of white rappers. You know what I mean? Because he definitely made me a believer in him. You know what I mean? Now, and shout out to Know the Ledge. There we go. Ghostface Killer, Iron Man. Arguably one of the dopest albums that came out from the Wu-Tang Clan. The 9 members that dropped the album independently, well, not independently, but separately, Iron Man was one of the greater ones. Iron Man, only built for Cuban links, right? Then, just when you thought that it couldn't get any better, he dropped Supreme Clientele. And to this day, I still listen to Supreme Clientele, man. That's like that's one of the greatest hip hop projects ever, because you had RZA doing all the production again. You had unorthodox beats, and Ghost just with his delivery and his wittiness and his slang. That was one of the greatest second albums ever. You know what I mean? To this day, you can put that up against anything or any body of work, and it's hard to find another album that can match up with Supreme Clientele, both lyrics and both sonically and with the beats, man. Ghost really did his work. I mentioned Raekwon because to me, Only Built for Cuban Links was great. You know what I mean? Him and Ghostface together made a great album, and we spoke about this 2 weeks ago on the Oddcast, me and my brother Vague. But that second album's Immobilarity, to me, it was a dud. And that was when Raekwon kind of branched off from RZA. And I guess we got to see, if you watch the Wu-Tang documentary and the series on Hulu, you got to see where a lot of the clan, or at least guys like Ray, felt the way about RZA. And, with anybody, man, with anybody that's in a large group, money is going to come into play at some point in time. And I think that, Ray lost his way a little bit, strayed away from the RZA, strayed away from the clan, tried to become his own independent source. And that album wasn't the best album to put out. You know what I'm saying? It was a good effort, but it wasn't anything that make you say, woo, he followed up with that. It wasn't that. Cuban Links 2 now was a different story. Him and Ghostface collaborated, got back together, and they did what they do. And, they made history again with the Purple Tape. You know what I'm saying? Part 2. Mobb Deep. Their first album. How many of y'all actually remember their first album? Put it in the comment section if you know the name of their first album. I'll give you a hint. The album was on 4th and Broadway. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, name the debut single that Mobb Deep put out. You know what I mean? If you can remember, if you go back that far. But their first album, the name of their first album was Juvenile Hell. They were teenagers, like literally, like maybe 16 and 17 years old. And the single that they had, it was cool in the hood. Everybody knew about it. Like if you was a diehard hip hop fan, you heard Hit It From the Back. You know what I'm saying? It ain't the greatest title to a song, but it was hood. Everybody liked it. They was from Queensbridge, and they was doing their thing. And on that album, you had the original Shook Ones. Shook Ones Part 1. For those of you that never knew that, go and do your research. Go and listen. You know what I mean? Shook Ones, the first Shook Ones was on that album. It wasn't a great album altogether, but they were coming up there. They were coming into their own. And then the Infamous drop. Now, that was one of the biggest jumps ever, because you had guys like Q-Tip now adding in on the production. Havoc was already a problem on the beats, but Q-Tip came and he put them in a different stratosphere with that album. And a lot of people don't give Q-Tip the credit that he truly deserves for, putting together great songs, and his beats are different. You know what I mean? He's called the Abstract for a reason, and he deserves a lot of credit for that that album in itself. You know what I'm saying? That's one of my I can remember what I was doing in 1996 when I heard the Infamous come out. You know what I mean? That's how much of an impact it had on me. That's how much of an impact it had on a lot of inner city youth from the 5 boroughs. You know what I mean? Especially Queens. It put Queens on the map, and nobody could tell Queens nothing back then. You know what I'm saying? You know, Jay-Z kind of tarnished Prodigy's image for a little bit, and then he just turned Prodigy mad after that. But that album, instant classic. You can put that up against any album, any duo in rap history. It's going to be hard for them to touch Mobb Deep and that Infamous album. And everything else after that was consistently solid. You know what I mean? Even when they went to join G Unit, they still had solid projects under G Unit. And until, you know, unfortunately, Prodigy's demise, you know, his death, sudden death, you know, they were always consistent, and they always gave the fans what they truly wanted, and that was good music. You know what I'm saying? So y'all know what it is, man. Speaking of good music, man, this isn't an Oddcast show without me taking it to a music break, man. And when I come back, I'll give you a little point of view from Stills, man. I'm gonna give you some jewels, man, before we get out of here. Something that I'm gonna start doing, you know, every show, man. Giving you a piece of my mind, giving you my thought process when it comes to certain things, and just giving you some game out there, because, you know, a lot of us go through a lot of things, and sometimes we don't know who to turn to or who to talk to. So I'm going to share some jewels with some of y'all out there that want to know something, man. Don't forget, the number to call in is 516-206-0711. Bars and Hoops Radio, the Oddcast. Check in with us. Shout out to Sue Millie. Yeah.
Tell the real Sopranos.
Been in 97 Hove, and I'm like Nas in 94. Ran it up 100 times, dispersing pies and slicing raw. Stamped the brick with J.J. Evans. It was dynamite, of course. Popping Ace of Spade with Harlem, booking private flights for tour. Tommy Bubbles and BB Simons with shiny buckles. Played your mixtape for like 30 seconds to find rebuttals. The newest guy, not the one you think you should scrutinize. Got the bag on me like Missy and super duper fly. Feeling super size, I'm just letting this little Uzi fly. Sister dropped the tear on his casket, wet in his suit and tie. But shit, I used to be a small timer. Interrogation rooms until your lawyer's present, you get all timers. But shit, the dirty money spared me the game. Was watching out for 112 and selling Danity Kane. Could've got black robbed, it ain't no biggie, cause I'm a grind slow. Could never tell me shit when I'm rich. I used to shine pro, voice for every block, made every single hood major. Bitch, I'm Jersey to the core, they call me Inglewood Savior. You move a certain type of way when you the ops target. Shit, I'm Benny's best investment in the stock market.
I like y'all. Cougar V in front of Twiz, but still I'm the same nigga. The only thing changing with change is my chain bigger. Louis the house.
Shout out to DB Elias Price.
Flipper. Fuck trying up the score on the board on the game winner.
Name of this joint is called Rumble.
Break grinder, how ways differ over Play-Doh. You missed the potato, this gauge hit ya. Limbs get rearranged. Sins could be explained. Shit, a nigga short ends and friends and up a strange. Thought that I would ball with my dog before the mains. And now my plug supplying the chickens like this at Cane's. Blew a bag, left it all in Clooney, got Tristan's aim. Could influence your fit and still we don't drip the same. I might flip you the bird from the Frisca to get a vein. Hermes cut so with the doors up it resemble tame. No tent, so I invite him in the seat. Aren't you sick of me and the cheese on Emily?
Niggas acting like I ain't him, I'm like what the fuck going on? Most rappers my age fell off, shit I'm still holding on. Took the good with the bad and accepted my pros and cons. With bars back to life when the faith and the hope is gone. No appreciation, y'all should embrace me with open arms. Instead y'all throwing shots, well fuck it, I'm throwing bombs. I'm burning down booths and I'm setting off smoke alarms. I see you snakes, the grass is cut and I made sure I mowed the lawn. Lanes trying to take food out me and my daughter mouth. I'm choosing balance, it's really nothing to talk about. Reap what you sow and I'm just gonna let God sort them out. My heart cold, I can't divorce it or throw it out. Told Christ if niggas want smoke, just call them out. And hear this many elite spitters in slaughterhouse. Try to slander my name, you better breathe easy. Count me out, I bet on myself like a league.
I'm from the Bomb City, Hussein Sama
Salute to know the lads. Take care of fights.
You're the one with me. If
We got something coming.
Warm with me. I palm too long, blicky. So if you move wrong, then you gone quickly. I'm getting kitty. Keep it on a D-low, I'm flipping busy. I don't talk to workers. Tell your boss, man, to get it with me. Or you litty, cause you at the club, licking in some biddies while I'm at the crib. Bitches, drugs, and bottles. Work the ditty, but we off that. Back to the rap, I'm the boss at. Posse's about to lose they noodles. I got my sauce back. You see, I took a little break. Wait. I mean, I gave a head start and niggas still missed the mark. So what I gotta do? Do another bid, get another job, have another kid, be a dad, take some summers off. You on a bad route, the king back, or you princess gonna be assed out. Niggas thought they had your blood.
Enough for the respect, don't be a stupid exec.
Shout out to
Putting
my
money
brother Will
against
Summit.
Sully would be a stupid bet. I got dual personality, this a crimey duet. I Jekyll and Hyde slide, my flow crimey to the depth. This rap shit a facade, never quit your day job. You can sell your soul and still be cold with a late charge. Pay your lawyer, but you can't pay God. Now you owe it. The afterlife is dark and hot, and now you going. Streets is wild, no code, just sharks and rodents. The demon child think getting right is locking and loaded. Some guys go from slow motion to just frozen. The pressure might compromise guys and have them folding. But otherwise on the right side of the dirt, keeping it tall is the only way to put in some work. I stay away from where Lucifer lurks, a cup away from berserk, a crooked smile with an arrogant smirk. What?
Demons try to cross me cause my name Christ. Yikes, but I'm the one that gave you niggas life. Right, shot money, be the chain on the bike. Be the voice that gave your darkness light.
Shout out to Shy Money,
The power of the
Excel.
public enemy, God flavors. But time don't require validity, king of what? You got to be kidding me, singing what? You sound like you mimicking me. This ain't a gimmick, I'm frigid, call me ICE. I'm cold on these hoes, don't disturb my peace. I know what I know, I don't need your speech. I heard it all before, what you did in the streets. Calling themselves goats, sounding like sheep. Bad move. Around wolves, that's seafood. I'm seafood. You need to bow. I'm your sensei, no equal. Some project weakness when they feel afraid. I'm made.
Shout out to my guy 38 Special. The name of this one is called Great Wall.
Yeah.
He's going through it right now.
To be the state part. Hey y'all, I remember it clearly. An OG told me stay low key and you benefit yearly. In due time you will see your relatives rarely. I do crime and never keep the evidence near me. A lot of y'all scary, jealous and fear me, and blame my success on irrelevant theories. I heard the cops set up surveillance and hear me. They probably recognize my voice better than Siri, If I said it, then I meant it sincerely. That's why y'all never compare me. I just signed the year lease in Italy. When you hear me speak about Venice son that never was dear me. If I got it, then I'm selling it carefree. I bring it anywhere for a fair fee. You rarely make bread, I'm a rare breed. I'd rather go to the chair before I cheerlead. Try just bought 8 dogs. Might be your landlord, depending on your state laws. Y'all expect me to stay Paul with the straight rod? I take more steps than the Great Wall. I started with an 8 ball. Shit, I had to rob Peter to pay Paul. Y'all expect me to stay Paul with the straight rod? I take more steps than the Great Wall.
Criminal talking over a smooth instrumental. Bail money for incidentals from jail to residential. I'm well with it's essential. Business and products of what I jot from my logic pen. Move monumental, you get it from what you get through. Aiming through it and I was cautious. They caught you and all of a sudden now they caught us. Working the plea deal in our lawyer office. Cause he went down my to get rich and back with mixed babies and charges. I taught my workers linoleum and carpet. Cover work we hit in the wooden floor before we off it. When they put the cam under lights, we knew we was the targets. We like, it is what it is, that's they go to pause us. Dust on the digital scale, they saw dust, they called us. When in need of a whole man, an 8-ball, my smoker working lows. That's half off these 8 doors behind sheet. Rocket fit stash, that's a great wall. Go.
I just bought 8 dogs. Might be your landlord, depending on your state laws. Y'all expect me to stay Paul with the straight rod? I take more steps than the Great Wall. I started with an 8 ball. Shit, I had to rob Peter to pay Paul. Y'all expect me to stay Paul with the straight rod? I take more steps than the Great Wall.
LOX shit, nigga. Trinity. Yeah.
This is classic right here.
Nigga, we was pissed poor. Coke on the 5th floor. 4th to the 3rd, and the 2nd, and the 1st, and the 6th. Outside from the 1st to the 6th. Flipping on the brick that I got from a Spanish nigga. Standing with the cannon, just ready to blam a nigga. Skipping on the court, cause the judge will remand a nigga. Niggas say it's love, but I know they can't stand a nigga. Yeah. I'm familiar with the life. I got the fuck out, cause I'm familiar with the night and the knife and the ice and the car that is high price. Been knocked from the cops, it's been in the yard twice. 1,000 push-ups a night, hitting the bar twice. Reminiscing over pussy and money and bar fights. Me, I hit the exit, yeah, hitting the hard rate. I'm blended with the stars, my nigga, I'm alright. Half sun, half moon, my nigga, I'm all bright. If you fuck with the locks, you know that it's on sight. Master of the goon talk, yeah, it's still a wizard, barefoot. In the blizzard, I can fuck around and moonwalk. Hustle, I can talk to a fork, knock a spoon off. Made penny enough, nigga, I knocked June off. It's the phantom, call me an entity. Soul is real old, my nigga.
See these niggas act stupid when the weather get warm. Y'all been letting these fuck niggas slide too long. You don't want to get clapped, I suggest you move on. You can try to come back, but my niggas too strong. I'm just trying to get away, yo, from the yayo. And the hating niggas on my block. I'm just trying to avoid the police. See a mill piece, but these niggas won't let me rock. So I load my
vest on, I brought 2 hammers. It ain't no going with me. Bury you in your Yeezys, have Kanye read the eulogy. You owe me, but I know you broke. I settle for your jewelry. Even if it's fake, we might can sell it out the state. Loud mouth, nigga. I don't think you can yell without your face. Starting 5 snitching, these niggas is telling out the gate. Transporter, know I still can send a bell without a trace. 50% jealousy, and the other half is hate. I fuck the status, niggas aggy cause they average and I'm great. Stab them with the same knife I used to cut my steak. Say my grace before I treat a nigga face like my plate. Early at this guap, y'all niggas in the race to be late. Switch side when they hate you, probably mention me too. I had the Molly when Pharrell was saying Mr. Me Too. Waited in lines for 55th just to see Skip to my loot. Then Bigger Val had me sipping on coke. Give me the
these
loot.
niggas act stupid when the weather get warm. Y'all been letting these fuck niggas slide too long. You don't want to get clapped, I suggest you move on. You can try to come back, but my niggas too strong. I'm just trying to get away, yo, from the yayo. And the hating niggas on my block. I'm just trying to avoid the police. See a mill piece, but these niggas won't let me rock. So I load my gun.
Yeah. Why you think we still doing it? The dream is still alive, my nigga, and we're pursuing it. The money on your head is expired and we're renewing it. Okay? The plan is not for you to ruin it. Next time I look at your body, I think of viewing it. Ain't even got enough sense to put 2 in it. No, I like my backwoods stuff with gorilla glue in it. The hood is like the jungle with a sprinkle of the zoo in it. Yeah, from the block to the interstate. Get a couple dollars, watch all the love disintegrate. Bad enough a nigga gotta deal with the inner hit. 95 South, I'm just trying to get a dinner plate. One false move, I'm coming back in the bag. Your prices is right though, I'm coming back in the jag. Raise it to your cheek, you coming back with a scab. Lot of thoughts in my mind, I'm running back to the lab. All the balls be the best plays, yeah. I still got a line on the best haze, yeah. Get it from the essays, I'm light years ahead of these niggas. I
See these niggas act stupid when the weather get warm. Y'all been letting these fuck niggas slide too long. You don't want to get clapped, I suggest you move on. You can try to come back, but my niggas too strong. I'm just trying to get away, yo, from the yayo. And the hating niggas on my block. I'm just trying to avoid the police. See a mill piece, but these niggas won't let me rock. Yeah, what you think I do this shit for? No money, rap money, dollar on the pick for. Quick draw, gun on me, late night, quick score. Netflix, nah homie, big movie, Pixar. Hood love, born and raised, first unit, 5th floor. Been cool, but like that, silverback, jigsaw. Talk less, pay attention, pull up ball, heavy bitchin'. Chic there, a lot of bitches, hating niggas, lot of attention. Shoot, for real, for real. Mines go from jail to jail. Lawyers got bail to bail. Yours can't keep it real. We not close. We used to be. This the new me. Get used to me.
I changed for the better, dog, truthfully. Inspiration for your kid, I'm what you could be. What you see is what you get, no scrutiny. Instead, you want to follow him. I'm like, who is he? Way out for a day, yo. No Instagram, IG, cable. Just some liquor, and some good smoke. And some good smoke, and some good see these niggas I when the weather get warm. Y'all let me slide too long. You don't want to get clapped, I suggest you move on.
You got Mr. Murder in less than 60 seconds. You got the legendary
last one, RJ Payne, and we gonna get back to it. Shout out to Eric Sermon.
I know about that. Pay close attention. Yeah, fresh out the kitchen with crack. I'm on my shit, I've been itching to snap. I'm Eric Sermon with the fisherman hat. The best bars, modern day Death Squad, the new addition to that. Reggie Noble Jr., how wicked is that? Ugly torture, walking through muddy waters, bunch of niggas in black. You punch the clock, I punch niggas that rap. The pumper lift up your hat, knock off the brim and the skin is attached. Keith Murray, the most beautiful Mac 10 in my lap. It's pain. I send a bullet at you straight out the Ruger. Dots effect shit, straight out the sewer. Shit, I'm hungry, I murdered my laptop. And I ate the computer, I got infinite Wi-Fi. They should pay me to use it, I'm saying. I got the hookup, that Master P. Your favorite rappers ain't half for me. Put me in a cypher with your top 10, they couldn't last with me. Fuck who like it, this how it has to be. It's pain. I'm the vermin exterminator. Word to Eric Sermon, I'm the new version of Terminator, the God, prayer rug and a turban, a work of nature. I don't even write raps, my words merge with the paper. I'm cooking dope like I'm whipping a Camaro. I get it fresh off the boat in my fisherman apparel. Free competition like Kane when he was visiting with Harrow. Shit, the bullet's so big I can't fit him in a barrel. You now looking at a motherfucking king of my Death Squad, yeah, I don't hear a motherfucking thing. LeBron Payne, I want my motherfucking ring. Fuck a battle, get uppercutted out the motherfucking ring. Shit, haters.
Back to live action. Man, I could have went on, man, longer and longer, man. One thing about me is I love music, man. And shout out to Know the Ledge, man. He said I got a good ear, got an A&R ear, man. You know, a lot of people don't know this about me, but, you know, and I don't really put it out there like that. But yes, I was heavily involved in chasing a musical career at one point in time. You know, as far as like producing and stuff like that. I initially started out, you know, making pause tapes and stuff like that, man. I wanted to originally be a DJ, right? But, and this is the part of my stills sharpened steel segment, which I'm about to get you before we get out of here. But a lot of what I did as a young kid was depend on other people to chase my dream. And you know, I had to learn the hard way, not to put all your eggs in one basket and not to pretty much depend on anybody to get things done. You got to take the bull by the horns yourself and do what needs to be done for you, because at the end of the day, you came in this world by yourself and eventually you're going to leave this world by yourself. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, man, I appreciate the love. I appreciate you, you know, sharing that with me. It made me feel good seeing something like that. But nonetheless, man, here we are. You know, we come to the end of a show. Try to give people little jewels and little advice, you know, from the way I see it. You know what I mean? And one of the things I'm big on is standing on business, right? You know, and a lot of us have entrepreneurial spirits, but have piss poor business practices. You know what I mean? Which means in a nutshell, we know how to go out there and try to get some money, but to do it the right way and the exact way, a lot of us lack that because we never had the true teaching and the education to teach us how to do business the right way. So I'm going to just use this for an example. You know, I'm in the business of radio and podcasting. You know, I meet people a dime a dozen that say they want to do this. Yeah, I want to do this. I want to do a podcast, or I want to have my own platform, create my own platform. You know, the professionals make it look easy. The people on YouTube, they make it look easy. You know what I'm saying? Nori, he had everybody thinking they could be drink champs. You know what I'm saying? We were a victim to that. When we first started, we wanted to come out, just get a bunch of bottles, get on the mic and talk shit, and hopefully people would gravitate to what we was doing until we realized that, nah, this is actually work. Well, I always knew it was work because at the end of the day, when I came into this knowing that you have to put in work and you have to have good content in order for people to check in for you. Because if you're not putting anything out there that's interesting to people, what separates you from the average Joe that's in a barbershop talking, about nothing? You know what I mean? Rest in peace to Combat Jack. When I heard Combat Jack, one of his first episodes that I was introduced to, he had a brother from my neighborhood by the name of Corey Pagese. And just hearing the way Combat Jack handled himself in that interview, it automatically made me want to do this. It gave me the passion to want to do this, to share my thoughts, to share my musical views, to give people a little bit of jewels here and there, to share my sports knowledge. You know what I mean? I was inspired by that. Another person that inspired me to actually want to do this is Star from Star and Buck Wild. I grew up listening to Star and Buck Wild on the morning shows when they was on Hot 97, when they eventually left Hot 97 after the whole Aaliyah debacle. I followed them. I always followed Star. I always respected the fact that he gave his educated opinion on how he felt, and he didn't care who he offended because he was knowledgeable about what he was talking about. So those are the people that I kind of look up to when I get on this microphone to give you anything that I do. You know what I mean? I don't just do it just to do it. I'm not doing it because it's trendy. I do it because I love it and I have passion. So my point into saying all of that is to say this. When you decide to get into the realm of podcasting, or anything for that matter, anything, it doesn't even have to just be podcasting. Do it because that's something that you're passionate about, not just because it's something that you think that you can make a quick buck off of, because it takes time, just like any business. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to build it. You know what I mean? You have to build it and make it to the point where people want to invest in your brand and want to promote anything that they're doing through your brand, because it's something that's substance. It's giving people something. It's not just sitting up here cracking jokes, getting drunk on camera, and just shooting from the hip with a bunch of nonsense. You know what I mean? Handle your business first. Make sure you got an agenda. Make sure you got something that's interesting, that can engage people to want to talk to you. You know what I mean? I'm still trying to master that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that I'm a master of it, but I see a lot of people come through these doors and go. And they come in with a mindset of, oh, I see my friend doing this, so I can do it. But they don't see that their friend is putting in the work behind the scenes to come up with something to talk about it every day. And don't get it twisted. Just because you may be a celebrity or you have a little following, that doesn't mean that you're qualified to now talk to people and keep people's attention to get them to be listening to you and following you on a daily basis and hanging off of your every word. It takes a specific skill and talent to do this. You know what I mean? And I want to salute those that have made that transition. Shout out to Joe Buttons. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Nori. Shout out to Star. You know what I mean? Shout out to Mav Hoffa. You know what I mean? Shout out to those guys, because those guys put the necessary work into this craft to get to where they are today. They didn't just say, I'm just going to jump on a microphone and just talk a bunch of nonsense, get drunk on camera, say a bunch of hot takes, and hopefully it goes viral and people notice me. Nah, this is a game where you got to do your research and put the work in to be successful. So on that note, Stills are great. Signing off. See you on Wednesday. Make sure you tap in 8 to 9, and then I'll see you on Friday as well from 8 to 10. Peace.